You ever see the movie The Breakup with Vince Vaughn? When he talks about, who's the talent? I'm the talent.
You're the talent?
I'm the talent.
Well, okay, talent. Can you read this so that we can, are you able to read this with your eyes?
No.
Let's get the show started then. Get the party started.
Do we need to do the snap or we're good?
No, we're good.
We just
We've already
rock
done.
and roll?
Yeah, yeah. Liz is gonna. We're gonna drive her insane.
Already.
She is. Yeah. She's trying to play along. She's trying to have fun with it. But
Liz is going to go to the coffee machines later. She's like, oh my God.
If you want to show,
You have no idea.
you have no idea what it's
Yeah.
like with those animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those circus animals.
They want to do this repeatedly,
Yeah.
once a month.
Yeah.
Need Xanax or
Carry
something like
on.
that. All right. So with that in
Grind
mind,
something up in their coffee.
now Liz knows us far too well, so
Yes.
that's actually very true. So maybe for anybody listening, and hopefully somebody's listening, we should probably at least share who we are
Let's
and
talk
what
a
we
little
do.
bit about who we are.
Yeah,
How we got here.
yeah.
The adventure that is our team.
So I'm Tom Golars. This is my brother Mike. You
Good
say
morning.
hello. They can't. You got to talk into the. They can't.
I already
hear
said
you.
good morning.
You said good morning. So who we are? We are industrial brokers in Greater Philadelphia, Eastern Pennsylvania, Southern New Jersey. Those are the markets that we stop and where we call home. We focus on institutional industrial is what we've kind of dubbed it, with really, I would say, not necessarily the jack of all trades, but institutional focused on tenant rep, buyer rep, land sales, landlord rep, but really focused on call it that.
Corporate dispositions.
Yeah, that big
but
box
all
sector,
it falls
though.
within the industrial space of institutional type of product.
Definitely. And so with that in mind, our core markets, Eastern Pennsylvania, Southern New Jersey, where we spend the vast majority of our time. But with that being said, as you mentioned, a lot of corporate work. We've got projects, we tallied it up, I think, in 12 different states right now that are active.
States. Yeah, we have fortunate to have relationships with a number of corporate occupiers on the disposition side, then also on the tenant slash buyer rep side. So that keeps us busy. And then, hey, for those that that don't know Eastern Pennsylvania and Southern New Jersey as well as we do, I would quantify that as kind of Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, down through the 81 corridor, almost to the border in Maryland, so Hagerstown, and then the Lehigh Valley, called Central PA with Harrisburg, York, and Lancaster, Greater Philadelphia, and then New Jersey. So anywhere where they cheer for the Eagles, that's our side,
Yeah, yeah,
as opposed to the Giants.
yeah. Well, see how that worked out for them this year. Yeah, so hey, listen, with this being the first episode, we wanted to use it as an opportunity. We're introducing the market, we're introducing ourselves, we're talking about what we track, how we track it, and so with that in mind, let's get into some statistics. Let's get into some stats. Probably one of the most important things that we need to do for the audience is share with them how we look at our statistics, because it's different than our friendly competitors.
It is, and quite frankly, it's different than how parts of our office track these statistics, and it's an important distinction, and it makes sense when you actually get into our numbers. But one of the things we need to call out is just how we track those, and we track big box versus regular inventory, which for our kind of quick definition of that, it's institutional in quality, so tilt up or precast or Class A for the market, and we can get into that a little bit more at a different time. But the quick thresholds are 200,000 square feet or larger and 28 feet clear or higher. Those are kind of the marks that we use. The other things that we do is we remove from our statistics anything that would be considered really specialized in nature. So a $1.2 million of pharmaceutical production, or 900,000 square feet of food production, those we remove. So we try and get as apples to apples as we can.
Yeah. And
where that comes out, where that really starts to show itself is when you look at an overall market, say Greater Philadelphia, for instance, and we define that as the 5-county region. We pull Newcastle County into that. But those statistics, when you look at it, are 276 million square feet roughly that our own office tracks. We, in our statistics, only count about 13% of that market.
Yeah.
So 87% of the market is made up of buildings that are very functional, great businesses run there, well owned, well capitalized, but we don't track them in our numbers.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing that we should probably call out, right? We're not saying that if you don't own one of those buildings that we track in our statistics that it's not a good building, right?
Not
Those
at all.
are
No.
highly functional. They are great for the market. They are fundamental real estate. Real estate, hey, I mean, call it what it is. I'd love to own that real estate.
Yeah.
But the reality is, for our client base and who we're most often serving, this provides an apples to apples comparison around the region and then also around the country.
Correct.
Yeah. So with that, I think you started in Greater Philadelphia. Greater Philadelphia is kind of home to us. I mean, that's where we really started the business practice, and it's obviously been fortunate to expand over a number of years. But with that in mind, maybe we just start right in Greater Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think we talk about Greater Philadelphia, and for our listening audience, all two of you out there, I would like to say that one of the things that when you look at Greater Philadelphia, if you go back a handful of years, and you don't have to go back that far, just roughly, Tom, when you started in the business, there was almost zero speculative projects in Greater Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we had the first two.
There were two. You had them both when I started.
And that was a handful of years ago. But this market has, well, I should say institutional has found this market.
Yeah.
And, no surprise, it happened in other geographies around the country. But when it did come, it came strong.
Yeah.
So we now track roughly 36 million square feet. And Greater Philadelphia, I think at the end of the day, had a really strong year.
Yeah, it did. And I think also because of that 36 million square feet, I think it's important for for an audience to understand, right? And for everybody to understand when they look at our statistics. We're tracking a small stock market, right? And that's the same for Burlington. It's going to be the same for Southern New Jersey as well, right? This is a market that, because of the limited supply, it is impacted significantly by lease deals that get done and inventory that comes online, right? So you have 1.5 million square feet come off the board, right?
That changes your numbers in a big way.
Changes your numbers in a really big way. And when you look at our vacancy, right, where you look at the vacancy of almost 14% for the Greater Philadelphia market, if you were to lump in all of those other buildings, the 87% that we don't track, that gets your vacancy into the mid sixes, right? So it's actually it's not necessarily representative of the overall market. It's just that bulk market, and because it's so new, it's just prone to some kind of bigger swings.
Yeah, and I think along with that, somebody does a 500,000 square foot lease or a 350, and we can talk about these here momentarily. That changes your numbers in a big way.
Changes your numbers.
And we've both been on enough activity and underwriting calls where when you start to unpack those numbers, it becomes a little bit easier to understand. When you say like, "Wow, that's a big number, mid-teens in vacancy." Not really. Not really.
And so with that in mind, a couple really nice deals that were done for the market this year. I think that that Pepsi Frito-Lay deal with First Industrial, 350,000 square feet. Again, we call that Greater Philadelphia, technically Newcastle County, Delaware, right? Great lease rate for the market and a great overall deal to get done for that building. Hey, Ship Viho. Taking down 150,000 square feet with Bridge. Another really great deal for the market and a great flight to quality.
Yeah, that's an important aspect of that. I think when we talk about just the overall narrative in Greater Philadelphia, and this applies to other markets as well, but especially in Philadelphia, when you say that 87% of the market is not kind of counted in our stats, meaning it's not institutional in nature, then what we talk about, and I say institutional construction standards, not necessarily ownership, but when we talk about the flight to quality, there are numerous occupiers out there that are existing in space that is less functional than perhaps a new building that is being delivered.
Yeah.
And as we look at the market, there's been a number of buildings that have been delivered where there is that opportunity for flight to quality, whether it's consolidation or just taking advantage of some of the amenities that a new building offers. And we see those deals happen.
Yeah, yeah. And that Ship Viho one was a really good example of it. We also saw our first Agent 3PL deal get done at Keystone Trade Center. I think that was one where, hey, call it what it is, for a long time, we have been trying to drag those companies across the river. and get them to look at the Philly 95 corridor. And I think that, number one, lack of supply in Burlington, which we're going to get to here very shortly. But number two, I think that the fundamentals, I think that they really have started to prove themselves out where, that 95 corridor, especially up in that lower Bucks area, is comparable to your exit 6 market, exit 5 market.
Well, I think especially, in that particular part of Greater Philadelphia there, Bucks County, if you were to look at a map, take the river away. I know that's easier said than done, but you take the river away, and that where it protrudes out there, right, right below Trenton, it's practically New Jersey.
Yeah, it's New Jersey
West.
West.
Straight line down, it's New Jersey West.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense for those statistics and those users to really lend themselves towards looking at Lower Bucks County there.
Yeah. So enough about Greater Philly. Not that I couldn't talk about it more, but let's move into Burlington. I think Burlington is Burlington was a real bright spot this year.
Burlington was, yeah.
It was a real bright spot, thanks in large part to a lot of Asian third-party logistics operations.
A lot of the Asian 3PLs have, they call it what it is. They bolstered our market.
They did. They bolstered our market, and I think that at the beginning of the year, you had some people that were looking at Burlington and saying, "Wow, a lot of supply, a lot of big buildings. What's going to happen? Is there going to be distress?" And ultimately, that just did not play out. Yeah. Those Asian 3PLs came down, along with some other non-Asian 3PL deals, but they achieved rents that they wanted to achieve, that people had been kind of guiding to the market that they were going to hit, which was great. And did we see some additional concessions on the landlord side? Yes, we saw some free rent. We saw, I think annual escalations tick down a bit.
But I think that's market wide. And when I say market wide, that's cross country.
Completely agree.
Quite frankly, we're healthier than a lot of markets.
I would,
we've seen in some other markets nationally, we've seen some rents tick backwards.
Yeah.
We have not seen that here yet.
And I think one of the other overwhelming factors that, when we talked about this with the tenant base, with the landlord base, there was nothing coming behind those buildings that had delivered and had been standing kind of end of 2023, early 2024. Such a land constrained market.
For the most part, they were all they all struck their deals within their performance time.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there was not the motivation to really try and meet the market at a lower rate than what they had anticipated hitting.
Yeah.
And I think there's also one distinction we should probably talk about. I know we're in New Jersey right now, but the way that we track New Jersey, Burlington versus the rest of Southern New Jersey, that's an important distinction for us too. Just like we talk about some of the distinctions about how we track the market, Burlington versus the balance of Southern New Jersey is an important
that really is. That really is an important distinction that we should make and call out for everybody. So just so everybody's aware, the way that we look at Burlington County is its own distinct submarket, and in large part we do this based on inventory size. So Burlington County in our statistics is about 36 million square feet. So
roughly the size of Greater Philadelphia.
Roughly the size of Greater Philadelphia, which includes Newcastle County. Mm-hmm. It's pretty remarkable on the bulk side. And so that is why we have called it out, along with its own market fundamentals. Obviously, it's certainly more tethered towards 8A, 7A.
It's a relief valve.
It's a relief valve.
It's a relief valve, and it's an opportunity to maybe strike a little bit better rent than some of the product that goes north.
Definitely. Versus Southern New Jersey, which is Camden, Gloucester, and Salem counties. All three together combined. These are good markets. They're just smaller stock markets again, and they're only 27 million square feet as we track it. And if there was an area that we saw some softness this year, I think, and some, I would say, general concern, it's how is Salem County going to perform over the next year, and based on how it performed this year.
Yeah, I think it's just a product of fundamentals. There's if you look at Salem County, where there are some great projects that have come out of the ground and delivered, they will lease. It's going to be a matter of time. And I think that if you look at historically where that market has delivered as far as velocity, there's just not the background
Yeah.
There's not the statistics you can point to and say, hey, this is the number of deals that got done in this market, and therefore this is the number of deals that can be expected to get done in this market going forward. You don't have that history. Notwithstanding, we've seen a lot of projects, we're involved in them, where there hadn't been a history of that until the, if you build it, they will come mantra took actual shape, and we think that that's exactly what's going to happen in Salem.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's to be very clear. We're bullish on that market again, in large part, same sentiment that we just shared about Burlington that we were talking about for late 23, early 24. There's nothing coming behind this stuff. Right. There's nothing coming behind it. You've got, I think the way that we looked at it at one point was 65% of that southern New Jersey market, those 3 counties, was controlled by just 4 landlords.
Right.
So
there's an automatic governor in there.
Automatic governor, right? There was already a capital governor on it, and now you've got this from a landlord perspective. They're not going to build it all at once. So there's going to be a controlled release of supply. And again, there's nothing coming behind it from a lack of land, a lack of infrastructure. I mean, you talk about the availability of power, the availability of sewer, all of those things, when you get kind of south of Burlington, become real hurdles that you may have to overcome.
And I heard some rumor about some pushback on development in general.
Oh, I've heard that rumor too. I don't know if anybody else has even heard about that. Something about that. Something
on social media about it.
Something on social media about not wanting warehouse development
ever,
anywhere. Not wanting development anywhere. Actually,
correct.
They would rather it be a field.
Correct.
But here nor there. I don't know how that would impact.
Not sure how that impacts our stats.
So maybe now this is a good opportunity for us to take a step back. So that is Greater Philadelphia, Southern New Jersey, right? That is how we look at that submarket. Some people, you'll hear Greater Philadelphia referred to as just Southeastern Pennsylvania, right? And so that Greater Philadelphia market, that Southern New Jersey market, that's how we track it. That's how we break it down. Now, that is different from, call it the other subset of the market, which is, it's been dubbed Eastern PA, and I think that it's a good way to distinguish it, right?
Yeah.
It's outside of suburban Philadelphia. It is the rest of the state. It encompasses the Lehigh Valley, Central Pennsylvania, and Northeast Pennsylvania. All of them have their own market fundamentals, their own dynamics. The Lehigh Valley, certainly the most notable of those from a distribution standpoint,
but not the top performing market.
But not the top performing
not
market.
The top performing market, not even the largest market.
Yeah, exactly.
In the way that we track our statistics.
Yeah.
Now, another distinction here is we like to go along. We're giving distinctions so that the listening audience and watching audience can follow along. We are going to go clockwise.
Clockwise.
Just again for our audience, we rehearsed this one time. Probably needed a few more than that, but we had a lot of trouble figuring out clockwise and counterclockwise.
Yeah.
So at this point, we're going to go clockwise into Central Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and by we, it was me. I was
not going to throw you under the bus.
I was the one that had trouble with that.
Yeah.
Mike actually offered to order me a clock with hands.
Watch.
Or clock.
You give me the watch.
Okay, you give me the watch. So Central Pennsylvania. Listen, Central Pennsylvania. Thank goodness for Central Pennsylvania.
Many ways carried our markets.
Carried our markets. Without Central Pennsylvania this year, the region...
It would have been a little bleaker.
The region looks a lot different, and to your point, the sentiment would certainly be a lot bleaker. In large part, you had a couple of very notable Amazon deals with Core 5. North Point was able to secure a couple pre-leases really before construction started. At the Manchester project. That was great. That was about 1.4 million square feet of leasing that got done. You had Ryder do 950 with Hillwood. It was a 3-year deal.
Quarter.
But hey,
another great deal for the market.
Great deal for the market. And then, hey, Core 5 in general had success at other projects, right? I mean, so I think that from that standpoint, Central Pennsylvania was a really, really good bellwether, kind of really carried the market for us.
Well-performing market, and hey, when you get into it, we're fortunate to have a lot of discussions with occupiers around the country.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we hear often is they look at Eastern Pennsylvania as essentially the gateway to all these other markets, to New England, up to Canada, in through the Mid-Atlantic, depending on the size of that box. But one of the things that we found out was, we study these markets in depth, and we live them every day. What we view as the distinctions within these markets, the occupiers and oftentimes the capital and the developers don't really look at them that way. It's Eastern PA.
Yeah.
Get me into Eastern PA. So long as the other fundamentals work, then it's a project that's worthy of consideration.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I mean, we've toured some projects now with prospects that have really shared that sentiment, which is, this is access to this market. It's Pennsylvania. I want to be in Pennsylvania. They obviously all have their own market fundamentals and certain drivers. There's pin on the map for everybody, but ultimately it's Pennsylvania. It's where they want to be. It helps them service a very, very important region for the
There's
country.
going to be drivers that are going to, make an occupier prefer one market to the other. I don't know that you necessarily can make that as simple as, like a Wawa versus a Sheetz.
Yeah.
Because you do run into that out there. Personally, for those listening, I'm still a Wawa guy. I think Tom is trending towards the Sheetz.
I am trending
mostly
towards the
because of
Sheetz.
those chili dogs, which, admittedly, those are rock solid.
But they're delicious.
But I can still do the Italian hoagie blindfolded at Wawa.
Chili dogs have taken the day for me. That I don't know. What can I say?
It's a fair statement.
It's a fair statement. So moving counterclockwise.
Told you I'd bring the humor.
Yeah, you are bringing the humor. Well, no, we can't move counterclockwise. There's nowhere to move. I guess we got to move clockwise.
Told you. I told you this is where we're going to bring the watch in.
I am a mess. So moving clockwise, we'll go to northeastern Pennsylvania. Now, I think this is a market that is one that there are some people that buy into it 100%, and there are others that are. It is a
cautiously optimistic.
I don't know. You say cautiously optimistic. I say there are others that are just like I am not a believer.
I don't buy in all the way. Yeah,
I don't buy in.
Well, but there are others that have pushed all the chips in.
There are, and I think from that standpoint, we're believers in Northeast PA. Mm-hmm. We are. We think that Northeast Pennsylvania has a lot of runway, and that it is absolutely something that makes a lot of sense. Again, playing back on what you just shared with this being a super region, right, and that super regional market that
Take
is
a step
Eastern
back,
Pennsylvania.
Look at it as a super region, and then talk about fundamentals. If you look at the fundamentals, there's no reason that it should not perform well.
Exactly.
Then you layer in the fact that the scarcity of ground, say in Lehigh Valley itself, the pushback and development itself, and you have, obviously there's distinctions within each geography and each municipality, but a much more welcoming geography for our type of development.
Yeah,
and we see a lot of positives.
And I think the ability to deliver scale to a market, right? And as we track it, Eastern Pennsylvania is one of the top performing, markets for deals greater than 1 million square feet.
Mm-hmm.
So those deals have to go somewhere ultimately.
Well, there's infrastructure too, right?
Yeah.
Rail.
Yep.
Highway access.
Yep.
The ability to have density.
Zoning. Just the ability to build, and also
utilities.
Yeah, it's a real. There's a lot of positives.
We're a believer.
So with that, hey, there you got a couple nice deals up there. You had ID Logistics leased North Point's building in Frackville, so that was another nice 1 million square foot lease that got done. Niagara. Purchased that building from Flint. And I think, honestly, that's a really good indication of what you see up there, right? You see the ability for user-owned purchases.
You do.
You see the ability for groups to come in, buy land, build their own building that might be a little special purpose. So that's somewhat indicative of what that market is.
Right. And to your point, you do have the zoning there.
Yeah.
Your shot of finding a site that can have relief on height, much better than a lot of other jurisdictions.
Yeah, and you've seen those play out over the last several years. So moving on now, clockwise. Got it. To the Lehigh Valley. So Lehigh Valley, arguably the most notable market in Pennsylvania.
Sure. I think when you talk to people around the country and they think about Eastern Pennsylvania, they think about the Lehigh Valley.
Yeah. They think about the Lehigh Valley, and why wouldn't you, right?
It's our inland empire.
Yeah, it is. It's pinned on the map. You look at Route 178. You have a who's who of occupiers. That is
It's Maine and Maine.
It is Maine and Maine. It doesn't get any more Maine and Maine. Now, with that being said, the Lehigh Valley over the past year or so has not performed like Central Pennsylvania did by any stretch. There was some product
I
that
think
delivered.
also to its historical standards.
It is. And that's something that's really important to harp on. People look, I think, too much at that 2021, 2022 timeframe where you didn't have to, the buildings didn't sit, right? There was no vacancy. And you look at Lehigh Valley vacancy, and it's actually right in line with where we are historically on vacancy within the market. And I would say we're not opposed to vacancy. Vacancy is actually not a bad thing for a market overall.
Yeah, I think when you look at really low vacancies, when you're in the low single digits, not that you get that very often in markets, but when you do get to those numbers, that becomes a little bit of an unhealthy market as far as from an occupier standpoint. If you need additional space and you want to remain in that market, your options become very limited, and then all of a sudden you're faced with decisions about, hey, can I stay in this market?
Yeah.
And you have key employees. You have distribution channels. You have a lot of other things that come into play. But if you can't grow your business, the discussion you end up having is, hey, it's not the cost of doing it. It's what's the cost of not doing it.
Yeah.
And does that make you seek other opportunities that are maybe not within that market?
Exactly. And so, but with that, I think it's still a market. You've seen tremendous rent growth. It's very healthy. I think that everybody in that market is very bullish on where we're going to end up through 25.
I think with the valley itself, one of the things that we know, and this we know this from underwriting and having different sites that we've pitched and discussed. There's really no pushback on a site in the Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, exactly. They are not.
You want to bring a site out that you're going to be safe, it's going to be in the Lehigh Valley. The challenge is finding that site.
Exactly. So with that, I think, hey, listen, that wraps kind of the statistics for the year, right? I mean, it was, I think if you look at it just from an overall perspective, the way that we outlined this was it's never as good, it's never as bad, right? You go into these things, and Mike and I, when it talked to film study, right? We used to.
This is where the football part comes in.
The football part comes in, right? We actually shared the same linebacker coach.
Crazy as that is. We shared the same linebacker coach, Ron Vanderlinden,
and
Coach Vandy. How are you?
Yeah,
shout out.
Big shout out to Coach Vandy. And so, what he would always say before you watch film is like, hey, it's never as good as you thought it would be. It's never as bad as you thought it would be. And then sometimes you'd watch it and it was as bad as you thought it would be.
You usually say to me more, it's never as bad as you thought it was.
Okay.
It was a little rare for like, hey, listen, great game, great practice.
Yeah,
that was rare.
Yeah, it's because I was better than you. Oh, yeah,
you gotta go there.
Coming at your neck. So that's what this market was this year. It really was. It was. I think there was this prevailing sentiment, like, oh man, nothing's getting done. You've got a lot of work for not a lot of deals.
There was an ongoing nervousness about the market overall.
Yeah, it really was.
Hey, it was warranted.
Yeah,
in many ways. I think one of the things that we took away from this market in general, and just I think our entire industry, was everything takes longer today. Yeah. Everything. Whether it's a lease that was agreed to terms, 4 months into the search that's still been waiting to be executed 5 months later, or whether or not it's underwriting a deal that you're waiting for a decision, or whatever it is, everything takes longer.
Yeah. Well, and there's a focus on these deals now. In large part, you've had such tremendous rental growth in this region. I mean, even a simple renewal, right? I mean, Mike and I have worked with clients that have, kind of brought us in a little bit and showed us a little look behind the curtain, right? 10, 11 different people have to sign off on a deal internally before it can get done.
Yeah, oftentimes, yeah. Why is it taking so long? Well, hey, here is my sign-off sheet.
Yeah.
There are 12 people that have to give input on this.
But for all that negative sentiment in the marketplace, right, that kind of prevailing uneasiness as you talked about it, you still had 17.1 million square feet of occupier transactions.
You did.
I mean, and that's Eastern Pennsylvania. I mean, that's pretty crazy. right? I mean, if you look at it from a perspective of Greater Philadelphia and Burlington, they outperformed 2023.
Right.
And you would have thought throughout the year that we're sitting there, it's like, wow, man, this is like we're in a truly like
Oh,
a
you're hanging your
brutal
head.
leasing market,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
and for a lot of ways it was. So I think with that in mind, it's always nice to assess properly, right? It was a challenging year, but it wasn't a bad year.
It was not a bad year, and I think as you said, you assess properly, and hey, like happens a lot of times, you wait towards the end of the year, and there's deals that have been, hey, this is going to get done, this should happen, and then towards the end of the year they get done, and then when you look back, you're like, hey, actually, it performed pretty well.
Yeah. And so with that in mind, I think 2025 and where we think 2025 is going to go, at least I'll share my personal sentiment on this. I think that you've got some pending deals out there that are Central Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley. I think that those are going to get done here in the next couple quarters. And I think that honestly, by the back half of the year, we're probably looking at, in pockets of the market, supply constraints where you really don't have a ton of supply, and it's actually going to be
the deals that are in the market right now.
Yeah.
If they come to fruition, all of a sudden there's going to be a lack of buildings.
Yes, exactly. I think that people talk about Northeast Pennsylvania, for example, right? Like, oh, there's a huge pipeline in Northeast Pennsylvania. A lot of that is not necessarily going to be there. It's getting repositioned, right? For
It's getting
other potential
repositioned.
uses.
It's also controlled by a handful of developers who
Yep.
will have their own governor on whether or not they deliver space. And then to your point, some of that may go to traditional industrial uses. Some of that may skew to data center uses.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're seeing that. We're seeing that real time.
Yeah, and then I think Greater Philadelphia, you've had a lot of product deliver on the 95 corridor, and I think that our belief has always been the 95 corridor. It's a great market to build in if you're patient. If you are willing to be patient and wait for the right deal. It's not necessarily the deal you do, it's the deal you don't do, because you are going to need to wait for the tenant that's out there. They're food and beverage, they're e-commerce, last mile. They are a group that needs to be in a dense
They need to
urban
be
area.
they need to be in Philadelphia.
Exactly.
Whatever the driver is, they need to be there.
Yeah.
If they don't need to be there, then they're not going to be.
Yeah.
There are too many other options in southern New Jersey or in other geographies that if their business plan doesn't call for them to be along the 95 corridor, they're not coming there.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, we really do feel as though those buildings will absorb over the next year. I think and again, not a lot coming behind it either.
Right.
So
Right.
but we hit a flurry of construction. We've had deliveries. It's not like there are a ton of people starting construction behind it. Now, I would say that probably the market that's the biggest question mark is southern New Jersey, in large part because of Salem County. And you've got a lot of big projects.
Yeah, and we talked through that again.
Talk through
those
that.
Are lease.
Those are lease. It'll
Those
just
are
take
really
some
good
time.
landlords. The activity will drive them there, and we look at it as it's just like anything else. Taking a long time, it's going to take a little longer.
Yeah, exactly. So with that in mind,
Well, I think one of the things that we talked about was we heard over the many months that was this past year, and before that survived to 25.
Yeah.
Well, now we're in 25, and we're feeling pretty good about it. But I think we did more than just survive 2024.
Absolutely.
I think our markets performed pretty well.
no, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a great recap and way to end it on the industrial side. But now we can pivot to the fun stuff, which is the football stuff.
We can pivot to the
Yeah,
football stuff.
with football stuff. So
Is there a game on Sunday?
there's a game on Sunday. There's a big game on Sunday. So Eagles, Chiefs.
Eagles Chiefs.
Eagles
Going
Chiefs.
prediction
Now
time?
I looked at the line when we were rehearsing this, and I guess I got to look at it again because I want to be accurate here as to what
Well, it
we're
might
actually.
move because I take such big positions. It does affect Vegas.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. You took such a big position, the line didn't move at all.
That's because I'm quiet about it.
So KC favored by 1.5.
KC favored by 1.5. Okay, I'm going to go Birds. Late field goal to win, and I'm going to say that's a result of two things: kicking game, advantage Birds. I'm going to say also the speed of the defense of the Eagles is going to limit Mahomes on his scrambling, where you might see him in previous games pick up a first down. When it's 3rd and 7, he gets 8. Not Sunday.
Okay, all right.
I think our linebackers have the speed to spy him and keep him short of those. Keep him short of the sticks. And the last thing, Saquon.
Yeah.
Saquon is our wild card. I think there's no reason to think that he doesn't continue to do what he's done all season, which is just jaw-dropping performances.
Yeah.
I see that on the biggest of stages.
It's pretty remarkable that a generational talent, a true generational talent, had such a struggle in New York. Or maybe it's not that
surprising.
Remarkable. Yeah.
It's not that surprising.
Yeah, maybe not that surprising when you look at the Giants.
Penn Stater, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout you out, Tom.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. So, all right. So I'm still having by a touchdown. I got the Birds by a touchdown.
I love your confidence.
And I'm gonna lead into this though where you ended, and I think it's because of Saquon Barkley. I think he's a true difference maker, and I agree with you everything you said about the defense limiting Mahomes. I think Saquon Barkley is good for the score. I think that him alone, the way he's played, the way that offensive line has played, they've had, if you look at it here, a couple weeks to get healthy.
Yeah.
From their last game. They're relatively injury-free. I think that it all lines up for them to have a really, really good game, and I think that Saquon Barkley
they're so good up front.
Really differentiate.
Yeah, they're so good up front. And hey, if Saquon can somehow spin and then again jump over someone backwards, which was jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
Then I think. Hey, all things lead to a Birds win. I think at the end of the day, you still got to beat the champ, and they are the champ. Acknowledge that. But I think going down in New Orleans, this is a better Eagles football team that was there the last time.
I would agree. Now, who do you have for MVP?
Saquon.
You have Saquon?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to Jalen Hurts.
I'm
gonna give it to Jalen Hurts. I think it. Well, first, I think you're likely to get at least one brotherly shove, so you're gonna get a touchdown there.
True.
Maybe 2.
Convert a 4th down.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think that, again, you look at him, I think he's answered a lot of questions this year just on being able to throw the football.
I'll tell you another thing on the brotherly shove. I love this. There is the adage there that when the Birds get a first down, it's not 1st and 10. It's actually 1st and 9.
Yeah.
Because if they're 4th and 1, it's a guaranteed first down.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, it'll be exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
What are you cooking for the Super Bowl?
So I'm doing 2 things. I'm doing my world-famous chicken tenders.
Ooh.
My own recipe. And then I am doing some barbecued chicken on the side, which is my oven-baked barbecue chicken, which, a little bit of a secret recipe, which I will say, young Miss Gabby, Tom's wife, says that he cannot duplicate, notwithstanding he has tried.
Yeah. Do you want me to come over and make the good sauce? The sauce that
I got to go there.
That actually everybody likes, that you can't recreate or duplicate?
Well, that is a buffalo sauce, and we did crack the code on that, and that's actually very good. I'll give you credit.
Okay. All right, fair. We'll give each other credit when we end this one. So, well, hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. As Mike said, probably all 2 of you to start, but we'll work on that. We'll see what we can gather here over the coming months, and hope that you guys continue to join us, continue to listen in. We're going to try to make this fun. We're going to bring in some guest speakers. We're going to bring in some people that we think will add value.
We're going to bring mystery guest speakers in.
Mystery guest speakers. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But we do want to hopefully bring some insight into what we're seeing regionally and nationally. And
we want to have some fun doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Because, this business is hard enough as it is, right? You got to have fun.
And especially with with 2 guys with faces made for radio.
Oh, 100%.
This is a bold step.
This is a bold step, putting it out there. I can't believe my wife actually said that.
She's harsh. She's harsh.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you tuning in.